Have you ever felt like life has knocked the air out of you? Like you're standing in the middle of your own story, but the pages are torn, the words are smudged, and you don't even recognize yourself anymore. I've been there. And here's what I've learned. Being broken is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a deeper one. See, life doesn't ask for permission when it decides to break us. It shows up in ways we never expect: failure, heartbreak, betrayal, loss, disappointment. When it does, we have two choices. We can let that brokenness define us, or we can let it refine us. What makes the difference? Courage. Courage isn't about being fearless. Courage is about being willing to stand back up when everything inside of you says, stay down. The Japanese have an art called kintsugi. When a piece of pottery breaks, instead of throwing it away, they mend it with gold. The cracks don't disappear, they shine brighter. The piece becomes more valuable because of its brokenness. That's us. That's what rising stronger looks like. We don't hide the cracks. We don't pretend they never happened. We fill them with courage, love, and resilience, and we become more whole, not less. Here's the truth no one tells you: rising stronger doesn't happen in the grand moments. It happens in the quiet choices we make every single day. The choice to keep showing up, the choice to keep loving even after heartbreak, the choice to keep believing even when doubt screams louder. Life will break you, but that's not the end. The end is how you rise. And when you rise, scarred, but not defeated, you give others permission to do the same. So the next time you feel shattered, remember this: your cracks are not weaknesses. They are the map of where the light gets in. And one day, when you look back, you'll see it clearly. You didn't just survive the breaking. You became stronger because of it. You became gold. There's a lie that many of us carry in silence: the belief that when life breaks us, we're the only ones going through it, that somehow everyone else has it figured out while we are the ones who are cracked, fragile, and falling apart. But here's the truth. Brokenness is universal. It doesn't discriminate. It visits every single one of us, no matter how strong, how successful, how loved, or how put together we may seem on the outside. Think about it. You've seen the smiling neighbor who waves at you every morning. But what you don't see are the sleepless nights she spends worrying about how to pay her bills. You've seen the colleague who always has the perfect presentation at work. What you don't know is that he goes home to an empty apartment and battles loneliness that feels unbearable. You've admired the friend who always shows up for everyone else, the one who looks like they've got endless energy and positivity. But behind closed doors, that same friend sometimes cries into their pillow, feeling unseen and exhausted. We don't see people's brokenness because we've become experts at hiding it. We mask our pain with smiles, filter our struggles with carefully crafted social media posts, and bury our heartbreak under busy schedules. We learn to carry our cracks quietly, as if showing them makes us less worthy. And in doing so, we convince ourselves that we are the only ones stumbling, the only ones hurting, the only ones falling short. But let me remind you, everyone has a story of breaking. Everyone has moments they wish never happened. Everyone carries scars. Think of the most successful person you know. Maybe it's a leader, an artist, or a role model you deeply admire. I promise you, if you peel back the layers of their story, you'll find chapters of brokenness. You'll find failures, heartbreaks, rejections, moments where they wondered if they had the strength to go on. Their story isn't just one of triumph. It's one of falling down and learning to rise again. I'll tell you a simple example. Years ago, I spoke with a woman who seemed to have it all together: a steady career, a loving family, and endless energy for everyone around her. But one day, she shared her truth. She told me about the miscarriage she carried in silence. She told me how she'd show up at work with a smile while inside she felt like her world had collapsed. For months, she believed she was the only one who had experienced that kind of loss, that maybe something was wrong with her. And then she found the courage to talk about it. And when she did, she discovered that many women around her had faced the same pain. Some offered words of comfort, some just offered tears, but in that shared brokenness, she realized something life-changing. She wasn't alone. That's what makes brokenness universal. It's the thread that ties humanity together. It's the hidden language we all speak, but are too afraid to admit. The power of knowing this truth is that it breaks the illusion of isolation. You are not the only one going through it. When life shatters your plans, when loss guts you, when failure stings, or when betrayal leaves you bleeding, you may feel like no one could possibly understand. But look closer, and you'll see that others have walked the same road. Some are walking it right now alongside you, silently carrying their own broken pieces. And some have walked it before and risen stronger, proving it's possible. Here's the beauty: when we realize brokenness is universal, we open the door to empathy. Suddenly, instead of judging others, we see them with compassion. Instead of hiding our own pain, we allow others to meet us in it. And when we do, healing becomes possible, not just for us, but for everyone connected to us. Imagine if we stopped pretending. Imagine if instead of saying, "I'm fine," when we're not, we had the courage to say, "I'm hurting too." Imagine if we allowed our cracks to be visible, not because they make us weak, but because they connect us to each other. What if the very thing we're most ashamed of, the breaking, becomes the thing that binds us together as humans? Life is tough. No one escapes it without scars. But here's the paradox. The very thing that makes us feel so different, our pain, is the very thing that makes us most alike. When you're in that moment where everything feels broken and you're tempted to believe you're alone, I want you to remember this. You are part of a bigger story. Millions of others know what it feels like to lose, to grieve, to fail, to fall. And many of them have risen again. Their survival is proof of yours. So instead of letting brokenness isolate you, let it remind you of your belonging. You belong to a community of humans who are brave enough to keep living even when life has knocked them down. You belong to a family of people who, despite the cracks, carry on with courage. Brokenness is universal. It's not your enemy. It's your reminder that you're human and that you're connected and that you are never, ever alone. We live in a world that celebrates strength, independence, and having it all together. From a young age, we're told to be brave, to toughen up, to keep going no matter what. So when life breaks us, when our hearts ache, when our failures stare back at us in the mirror, our first instinct is to hide. We cover the cracks. We pretend we're fine. We wear a mask of strength, even when inside we're falling apart. But here's the paradox. The very thing we believe makes us weak, our vulnerability, is actually where our greatest strength lies. Think about the last time you were struggling. Maybe you were overwhelmed with stress at work, or maybe you were grieving a loss. Did you tell anyone? Or did you smile and say, "I'm okay"? Most of us choose the latter because somewhere along the way, we learned the lie that showing pain means we're fragile, or worse, a burden. But what if we turned that idea upside down? What if strength wasn't about pretending? What if strength was about showing up with our truth? Even when our voices shake. I'll give you an example. A young man once told me about the night he finally opened up to his closest friend about his depression. For months, he carried the weight alone. He thought, if I tell anyone, they'll think less of me, they'll think I'm weak. But one night, he couldn't hold it anymore. Through tears, he told his friend how heavy life had become, how hopeless he felt, how tired he was of pretending. And instead of walking away, his friend reached across the table, held his hand, and said, "Thank you for trusting me. I felt the same way too." That moment changed him, not because his depression disappeared, but because he realized something powerful. Owning his pain didn't push people away. It brought them closer. Vulnerability became the bridge to connection. That's the strength of vulnerability. It dismantles the walls we build and replaces them with windows. Suddenly, instead of isolating ourselves in silence, we let someone in. And that someone doesn't see us as weak. They see us as human, brave enough to tell the truth. Think about relationships. The deepest bonds you've ever had, whether with a friend, a partner, or a family member, weren't built on perfection. They weren't built on endless success stories or happy moments. They were built on shared tears, late night conversations, confessions of fear, and laughter that rose out of honesty. Vulnerability is what makes love real. Without it, we only show the polished surface, not the beating heart underneath. Let me paint another picture. Imagine a parent who always pretends to be strong in front of their child, then never admit when they're tired, never confess when they're worried, never cry in front of them. They think they're protecting their child by being strong. But what does that child learn? They learn that emotions are dangerous. That weakness should be hidden. That pain has no place in love. Now imagine instead a parent who says, I'm having a hard day. I feel sad, but it's okay to feel sad sometimes. That parent shows vulnerability, and in doing so, teaches the child one of life's greatest lessons, that feelings are not failures. They are part of being human. That's real strength, raising another human who understands that courage isn't the absence of struggle. It's the willingness to be open about it. The truth is, when we hide our pain, we disconnect ourselves from others. But when we own it, we give people the opportunity to truly see us. And in seeing us, they feel permission to show up with their own truth too. Vulnerability creates a ripple effect. It spreads courage. Think of it like this. A cracked window lets the light in. The crack doesn't ruin the glass. It becomes the entry point for illumination. In the same way, your vulnerability doesn't ruin your strength. It becomes the space where compassion and connection flow. It takes courage to stand up in front of someone and say, I don't have it all together. It takes courage to look at a friend and say, I need help. It takes courage to sit us across from someone you love and admit, I'm scared. But in those moments of courage, something beautiful happens. We realize we are not alone. We realize that someone is willing to meet us right where we are, in the rawness of our pain, without judgment. And here's what's even more powerful. Vulnerability doesn't just heal relationships. It heals us. Every time we allow ourselves to speak our truth, the weight on our chest gets a little lighter. Every time we cry in front of someone safe, the burden becomes more bearable. Every time we admit we're struggling, we make room for love, empathy, and support to enter. Strength isn't about the armor you wear. It's about having the courage to take it off. It's about standing there with all your cracks showing and saying, this is me. This is my truth. Because the people who matter won't run from your brokenness. They'll meet you in it. So the next time you're tempted to hide your pain, remember this: vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the birthplace of connection, the foundation of love, and the truest form of strength you will ever know. When life knocks you down, it feels like the easiest thing in the world is to stay there, to stay curled up in the ache, to stay silent in the pain, to stay bitter in the disappointment. Because rising takes energy, rising takes courage, and rising takes a choice. And let's be honest, when you're broken, choosing to rise feels like the hardest thing you'll ever do. We often look at people who've overcome hardship and think, they must be different. They must be stronger, braver, tougher than me. But that's not true. They're human just like you. The difference isn't that they never wanted to quit. The difference is that in the middle of the darkness, they made a choice. They chose not to let the breaking be the final chapter of their story. Rising stronger isn't automatic. Time alone doesn't heal us. We've all heard that phrase, time heals all wounds. But if we're being honest, time only gives us distance. Healing, real healing, comes from the decisions we make with the time we're given. And one of those decisions is whether or not we will rise. I think of a man I met who lost his job after 20 years in the same company. It wasn't his fault. The company downsized. But for him, it felt like failure. He sat in his home for weeks, ashamed, thinking he had no value anymore. His confidence was gone, his self-worth shattered. And then one morning, he looked at his children sitting at the breakfast table, watching him with worried eyes. And he realized something: if he stayed down, they would learn to stay down too. But if he chose to rise, they would learn resilience. That day, he put on his shoes, walked into a local business, and asked for a chance. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what he had planned for his life. But it was a choice to rise instead of staying broken. And slowly, day by day, that choice built his strength back. That's the thing. We're not always given the life we planned, but we are always given the choice to stand back up. Rising stronger doesn't mean the pain disappears. It doesn't mean you forget the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss, or the failure. Rising stronger means you carry those things with you, but you refuse to let them define your future. It means you get up with shaky legs, a trembling voice, and maybe even tears streaming down your face. But you still get up. Think of the people you admire most. They're not the ones who've lived easy lives. They're the ones who've faced storms and still found a way forward. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who looked at their wounds and said, "This hurts, but it will not destroy me." That's not luck. That's a choice. Down. And it's not a one-time choice. Rising stronger is something you choose again and again, sometimes every single day. It's waking up and deciding, I will not let yesterday's pain steal today's possibility. It's standing in front of the mirror and saying, I may not feel strong right now, but I'm still here, and that's enough to try again. One of the bravest women I know lost her husband suddenly. The grief nearly drowned her. For months, she could barely get out of bed. Friends came, meals arrived, but nothing filled the hollow space in her chest. And then one morning, she said to herself, I can't keep living like this. He wouldn't want me to. That day, she decided to take a walk. Just one walk. The next day, she took another. Weeks later, she joined a support group. Months later, she was speaking to other widows, helping them through their own storms. Did the grief vanish? No. But she made the choice to rise, and in doing so, she found a strength she never knew existed inside her. Here's the truth. Rising stronger is not about erasing the pain. It's about choosing to move with it, choosing to grow through it, choosing to write the next page, even when your hands are trembling. And here's what I want you to know. You have that choice too. Even if you feel weak, even if you feel like you can't, even if your mind is screaming that it's over, you still hold the pen. You still get to decide if this chapter is the end or the beginning of something new. When you choose to rise, you teach the world something powerful. That brokenness is not permanent. That scars are not signs of defeat. That courage isn't about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down. So if today you feel shattered, let this be your reminder. Strength isn't something you wait for. It's something you choose. And every time you rise, whether it's with a confident stride or a shaky step, you are proving to yourself and to the world that life may break you, but it will never have the final word, because rising is your choice. And that choice changes everything. Scars are funny things. Most of us try to cover them up. We put makeup on them, hide them beneath clothing, or bury them under silence. We don't want anyone to see the evidence of what we've been through, because somewhere deep inside, we've been taught that scars are shameful, that they are reminders of weakness, of moments when we fell apart, of battles we didn't win. But the truth is, scars are not signs of weakness. They are living proof of survival. They are the evidence that you've been hurt, yes, but you've also healed. They are proof that you didn't stay broken. You rose. Think about it. Every scar tells a story. The little line on your knee might remind you of the time you fell off your bike as a kid. The mark on your arm might carry the memory of surgery that saved your life. The invisible scar on your heart might hold the story of heartbreak that nearly destroyed you, but also taught you what resilience looks like. Scars are like chapters in the book of who we are. They don't make us less valuable. They make us real. I remember speaking with a young woman who had gone through years of bullying in school. The words spoken to her left scars that no one could see, but they were there all the same. For a long time, she believed those scars made her broken, that her worth was permanently damaged by the cruelty of others. But one day, when she finally shared her story, something surprising happened. Another person looked at her and said, "Me too." In that moment, she realized her scars weren't just reminders of pain. They were bridges of empathy. They gave her the ability to connect deeply with others who had felt the same hurt. And slowly, she began to see her scars as a kind of strength because they allowed her to be a safe place for others. Scars carry wisdom. They show us not just that we've survived, but how that scar on your heart from a failed relationship, it may have hurt like nothing else, but it also taught you how strong love can be and how strong you can be when love fails. That scar from failure at work or school, it may have stung, but it shaped your character, built your resilience, and gave you grit. That scar from grief, the one that still aches when you least expect it, reminds you of how deeply you were able to love and how deeply you were loved in return. Scars are not the end of the story. They are the evidence that the story continued. Think about soldiers who come home from battle with scars. Are they seen as weak? No. Their scars are seen as medals of honor, visible proof of the courage it took to endure. In the same way, your scars, whether on your skin, in your mind, or in your heart, are proof that you've been through something and you refuse to let it destroy you. They are your medals of survival. I once met a man who had a long scar across his chest from heart surgery. For years, he wore high collars, avoided swimming, and never took off his shirt in public. He hated the reminder of his weakness, of the time his heart failed him. But over time, his perspective shifted. He realized that scar wasn't a sign of failure. It was a sign that his heart had been repaired, that he was still alive, still here. That scar was proof of the doctors who fought for him, proof of the body that healed, proof of the second chance he'd been given. One day, he stopped hiding it. He even began to tell the story behind it. And when he did, people didn't see weakness in him. They saw courage. That's the thing about scars. Once we stop hiding them, they don't diminish us. They inspire others. They say, yes, I've been hurt. Yes, I've been broken. But look, I'm still here. Your scars are not ugly. They are beautiful in the way they testify to your resilience. They remind you that the worst day of your life did not win. They remind you that you've walked through fire and you came out the other side stronger. We need to change how we see scars. They're not something to cover. They're something to honor, because every scar is a story of courage, healing, and persistence. Every scar whispers, you've been through the valley and you climbed out. So the next time you look at your scars, whether on your body, in your mind, or in your soul, don't see weakness. See evidence. See proof. Proof that you were tested, proof that you survived, proof that you are stronger now than you were before. Your scars don't diminish your beauty. They deepen it. They don't erase your worth. They amplify it. And when you stop being ashamed of them, when you let them be seen, they become gifts to others, reminders that they too can endure, that they too can heal, that they too can rise. The scars are not the end of the story. They are the shining proof that you lived through the breaking and you rose stronger.